Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 6 of Krunker GFX Lounge's Blender tutorial series. And this is the final video in this series. We're going to go over mainly importing cosmetics. So this would be things like gun skins and cosmetics like hats, capes, or things like that. Let's get started. So here I am in my new file. I'm just going to press A, select everything, X to delete. And we're going to import, we're going to add our guy. We went over this in part 2, just in my rig file, which I can find here. And, alright, so I have my character here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give him a gun. So for this video, I'm going to use intervention XVI. VI, the orange one. Yeah. So, the main method that I recommend for doing this is through GameBot, which is one of the most popular Krunker servers, Krunker bots, I'm sorry. And in bot commands in the Krunker GFX Lounge, I'm just going to do g.skin intervention VI. And here, press enter. And it sends me the image. I'm going to press details and textures. And here it gives me the main texture I want. Right click, open link. And it's going to open in my browser. Let me download this. Bam. So, and then also you can see that it has an emissive texture, which means that it has a texture that dictates how it glows. And we're also going to go over how to use that in this video. So I'm just going to click this and download it as well. Alright. So I have those downloaded. I do not have the model for it yet because intervention doesn't go on the normal op model, it's on its own intervention. So if I click here model URL, you can see that it doesn't work, and this is actually a flaw of GameBot. When whoever created GameBot set this link up, they forgot to change textures to models. This type in models and it will give you the correct download. Alright, so now that we have all the 3 pieces that we need, I'm just going to close up this collection and make a new one. I'm going to file, import object, and weapon 10, which is the key for intervention. So, as you know, intervention is one of the older weapons, and the older weapons, for some reason, all are huge. So I'm just going to scale that down. Alright. And then a handy trick I like to use, so I don't have to finagle about moving this around. Shift right click again to move your 3D cursor. And object, snap, select the cursor. And I can move it right to his hand. And I can just move gun around like so. I'm just gonna move it there. Right, and then adjust his pose accordingly. Something like this. Yeah, and then his other hand, move out here, change his to there. Alright, so now it's time for a nice little trick. So if I go and I move this hand, notice my gun doesn't move with it. And this means that if I move it, if I make a slight adjustment, I also have to move the gun. And to circumvent that, we're going to click, while we're in pose mode, we're going to also select our skin, our weapon, and then pose, parent, bone. And this means that now, when I move this, the gun goes with it. Yeah, the gun goes with it. And this is especially useful when you're putting on like a hat on a character. That's also helpful. Now I don't have to. Notice it doesn't rotate because this arm bone doesn't rotate, but you can always do that later. But this is most important that it keeps the gun glued to the hand. Alright. So next, we are going to do the police vest. I think we should do the police vest. Another common cosmetic. Popular one. Right, once again, go here, details and textures, same dealio. Of course, the police vest does not glow, it does not have an emissive texture. I do need the model, so we'll do that. Once again, make sure you change the textures to models. Really should tell the developer of GameBot around that one. Yeah, alright, we have everything we need. So once again, file, import, object, body 15, and it imports it. It's kind of small. Scale it up to where it needs to be, and then just put it on your character. Boom, he's wearing a police vest now. And by the way, I haven't actually looked at what this looks like. Haven't applied texture on either of these. Should do that now. So first we're gonna put the texture on this guy. So image texture, and the picture we downloaded, body 15, and we went over this texturing process, by the way, in detail in part 3. Notice how for some reason the police vest is only partially covered. This is because for some reason the police vest mesh specifically has 2 materials. So if I select the second material here, then I can just change that also to image texture. And make sure I select the correct one. Bam, right. Now everything is looking good. So let's do the texture for this guy. Once again, image texture. This should be a familiar process by now. I'm gonna do, yeah, let's do VI. Okay. And then about that emissive texture. So this is your base color, right here, this first one. You can see it. But then you also have your emission, which you go down here, emission. You can change that same way, image texture. You just make sure you select this E. And that makes it glow a little bit. You can't really see the difference, but if I had this at 0, so if I go down to emission strength, set that to 0, a little bit of a difference. And of course you can change the emission strength. That changes how much like the emission texture affects it. So if I set this back down to 1, it glows a little bit. Alright, so now we have this. And one more thing we should do is we should add a face. Face would be nice. Alright, so the way I add faces is different and cool. And I will show you guys that in a second. First, though, I will get us the face we actually need. And you could do G.skin. You could do GameBot. I think this is the one I want to space captain. Yeah, it's face. Alright. Details and textures. And it doesn't have it. Alright. So what you want to do, if in this case, open up your browser and go to the Krunker texture viewer at krunker.io/viewer. What you're going to do is inspect the website. So either right click, inspect element, or your shortcut, for me it's Control-Shift-I. And then you're going to go, default is elements tab, but you actually want to be in the network tab. And here, just going to reload it so that it shows you the network traffic. And we want a face, we want the space captain face. So in here, you're going to select face, space captain. And it will show up in here, right here, here it is. Make sure you select the preview, and bam, I can save this image. Alright, I have the face now. So what you're going to want to do, this is, you're going to select the head. You do not want to select the rig. Select the head. Tab into edit mode, which looks like it will reset your pose. And then press 3 for face select. Select the front face and the hair face. Shift D to duplicate. Z, then Z again to do on the forward axis. Then put it as close to you can on the face without it being behind. So I'm going to put it here, and you can see that this is indeed very close to the face. Alright, and here, you're now with these faces selected in your material tab, plus sign, which will create a new material, new, and a sign. So now, this is blank, and that's good, because that's where we want to put our face. Alright. Base color, image texture, open, select your face. And ta-da! It doesn't do anything. And that's because the face is not properly mapped. So if I select these two faces, once again, and go into UV editing, this is a different workspace now. UV editing, you will see that with these rigs, these two textures are up in these two squares. And the easiest way for me to explain this concept is similar to the concept of a Minecraft skin. You know how different parts of the image of the Minecraft skin correspond to different places on your actual character. This is the same way. These two faces on the front of your character correspond to these two spots in a normal dye texture. But here we're using a face texture. This part corresponds to the lower part of the face. So I'm just going to move this to this corner, select these two vertices G, X, and move them over here. Select these two G, Y. Bam. I'm just going to select these two S, X a little bit so that it fills out the space. And then I move this to an empty area, so right here. Alright, so now in layout, you can see that now that I've mapped it, it looks a little better. But why is it black? Well, that's because face textures are transparent and we have not set that up yet. So now we're going to go into yet another workspace, shading. And that will open up the shading thing for this material. This up so you can see it a little bit better. If I take this and I put the alpha into the alpha texture of the BSDF, you can see that nothing changes. But now if I go into my rendered view in cycles, the face is transparent and applies onto my thing beautifully. And the best part is that it moves when you move the face. If we go back here into this view, you can actually enable this for your viewport if you go down into settings, and actually, since I have cycles enabled here, EV, settings, blend, alpha blend, you can actually see it on your preview. Sorry about that. That's not a problem if you're going to be rendering in cycles though, because transparency is enabled by default for cycles. You see that my face is applied, and if I go to move this around, because I duplicated a face on the front of the head, these two faces are automatically bound to this bone. So I can adjust this however I like. Alright. And one last thing to end off this video, a quick tip. If I go back into the solid display mode, it gets a little bit hard to see, and this is great for modeling as well. If you go up here in solid, press this down arrow and press matte cap, then check cavity and put all of this all the way up. You can see that now the geometry is very distinctly outlined for you. It just very greatly improves visibility. This won't affect your render at all. It just makes it easier on you. Alright. Last thing last, we're going to add a camera. Do that setting. Change our field of view. And the final thing is how to render with a transparent background. So here I'm not going to import a map. Instead, I just want to render this character like this. So I'm going to once again add an HDRI. This time I'm going to use a handy thing is, if you don't want to have to go all the way through your Blender, navigate to your world, right where your photos are, and down here in bookmarks, just press the plus. This will add world right to your bookmarks, and you can open this from any folder anytime, so you can easily access this. For this render, I'm going to choose sunset because it nice contrast of colors. If I open here, you can see it offers this. But you can see now, when I render, it will have all this stuff in the background, which isn't crunkery at all. It's not what I want. Instead, I will go switch this to cycles, first things first, GPU, and then in film, choose transparent, and it will render transparently. Make sure I change my sample count down to 256 again. That's it. we are ready to render. Boom. Beautiful. And render's done very soon. That's it. I can now save this image like we showed you in part 5. Thank you everyone for following along with this tutorial series. It's been great for me to record. By the way, I'm Flair. I'm one of the moderators in Krunker GFX Lounge. Once again, thank you. This is the end of the series for now. Bye.